Yeah!
And welcome to Binge Mode Live NBA. I am Jason Concepcion, a staff writer at TheRinger.com.
Yes.
And joining me today, now that she's finished guzzling 3 pitchers of Shirley Temples and picking against Clemson, it's Ringer editor, deputy editor, Mallory Rubin.
I have a thirst. I, like Embiid, have a persistent thirst. What can I say? Jason?
Yeah.
Wow, it is such an honor to be here with you, talking about NBA of all things. I truly feel...
Yes.
I feel like this is the first moment in my life, other than when I've had an unofficial dalliance or two with a wild creature, where I've really felt like Tormund Giantsbane.
Hey.
It's like I'm here in Winterfell's Hall, a wildling among bannermen and PER experts, and I'm looking around at all the NBA hoopheads here, and I'm saying, looks like we're the Night's Watch now.
Night has gathered, Mal.
Yeah.
Thrones isn't coming back until maybe 2019, but
You watch your mouth.
the NBA kicks off in less than 24 hours.
Wait, are we not here to talk about the baseball playoffs?
We can talk about that, too.
Oh, God,
Put that in there.
So unprepared.
And since I already pledged my life and honor to you, let us be the sword in the darkness once more. Let us, NBA!
Okay.
Mal,
Let's do
considering
it.
we've been told we can only go 45 or so
We have
minutes.
never failed to hit a time restraint before, so
That's true.
I am not concerned.
Let's get right to it by offering a refresher on the 2016-17 NBA season. Let's take a quick. This really is like Binge Mode.
Quick one.
Quick one. Let's take a quick trip down our very own Kings Road.
Okay. Maybe a King James Road?
Sure.
Perhaps, if we wanna switch the theme up
Why
here
not?
and go NBA. Let's start with the offseason.
Sure.
The last offseason. The
Right.
offseason before the 2016-17 NBA season. A lot of things happen, but really one thing of note that
one thing
then
only.
colored and defined everything else that followed, right? Kevin Durant
That's right.
left Oklahoma City
How could he?
for Golden State. Not only did he leave Oklahoma City for Golden State, he announced that he was doing so in a Players Tribune article that instantly became an excellent meme. And he did so on the 4th of July. It's like he has just no respect for how Juliette Lemon and Danny Chow and Chris Ryan might be spending their holiday.
That's right.
Extremely selfish.
That's
The
right.
entire Ringer NBA team was like, what about my Pabst? What about my hot dogs? Not everybody outside of the Ringer reacted well either. Russell Westbrook, who at this point in time had not yet started wearing mocking Adopt a Cat t-shirts,
Love it.
but was already instantly extremely petty, took this as a slight. He soon signed a 3-year, $85 million extension. There will be much more on Russ,
Oh, yeah.
his contract extensions, his pettiness, and his feud with KD soon.
Regular season, October 25th. LeBron James becomes the first player since Jason Kidd to have a triple-double on opening night. And the reigning champion Cleveland Cavs beat the Jesus out of my New York Knicks.
Wow.
Elsewhere, Kevin Durant, now with the Warriors, drops 27 and 10. But the Dubs still lose to the Spurs by 29. Wow. October 26th. Here comes the process, people.
Love the process.
Joel Embiid plays his first NBA game. He scores 20 points, grabs 7 rebounds, blocks 2 shots in a loss to OKC, and he changes Chris Ryan's life forever.
Forever.
Forever!
Forever changed.
Forever changed. October 29th, Russell Westbrook records the first 50-point triple-double since a guy named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did it back in 1975. The first of his many triple-doubles this season. December 5th, Klay Thompson, prophet of Claytheism, scores 60 points in 29 minutes in a win over the Pacers. He touches the ball for exactly 90 seconds. 40 of his points came in the first half, and of his total 60 is the and his total 60 is the most all-time for any player on the court for less than 30 minutes. Amazing stuff.
Where can I send my Claytheism monthly membership check?
Send it to me for the time being. I'll hold on to it. December 9th, Russell Westbrook's triple-double streak extends to 7. He ties Michael Jordan, who? And Oscar Robertson, who? For the second longest streak of all time, December 14th. Lockout avoided, people, thank God, because the Ringer was like, what are we going to all write about college basketball? The league and the NBPA reach a deal on a new CBA. One thing it adds, 5-year extensions can now be given to players as old as up to their 38th year season, up to 36. This makes no sense. Whoever wrote this. Me. Under the new rule, Chris Paul, the NBPA president, would be eligible for a 5-year Supermax coincidence.
Total coincidence.
December 25th. Christmas Day games, a tradition like no other. The Cavs beat the Warriors 109-108. KD had 36 and 15. LeBron had 31 and 13. Kyrie hit the game-winning bucket with 3 seconds left. Where we've seen that before. The Lakers beat the Clippers. Boston took down the Knicks. Everybody's freaking taking down the Knicks in this. OKC beat Memphis. Russ had 31 and 15. And the Spurs beat the Bulls by 19, December 31st. James Harden drops 53 points, 16 rebounds, and 17 assists against the freaking Knicks. Who wrote this? It's the first 50-15-15 game in NBA history and the highest scoring triple-double ever. February 10th. So many triple-double historic moments. Draymond Green becomes the first player in NBA history to record a triple-double without any points. 4 points, 12 boards, 10 assists, and 10 steals.
What
February
was the
11th.
dick kick total?
He's like 2 at least, and then 1 dick pic of his own. February 11th, KD's return to OKC. The Dubs win 130-114. The crowd was in a full lather. KD scores 34 points and grabs 9 boards. Steph and Clay each had 26. Russ scores 47 with 8 assists and 11 boards in a losing effort. March 20th, Klay Thompson scores 34 to lead the Warriors past OKC again, 111-95. The rivalry is strong, and there's a shoving match between Steph Curry and Samaj Kristen. Sorry, nobody remembers your name, Samaj. Before the half. March 24th, Devin Booker becomes the youngest player to score 70 points, 21 of 40, 4 of 11 from 3, 24 of 26, but the Suns fall to the Celtics. And by the way, this is like the most unesthetically pleasing 70-point game ever.
Also, everyone was watching March Madness.
Yeah, it's like nobody cared about this.
Really tough.
Shouts to Devin Booker. Is still great. Westbrook ties April 4th. Westbrook ties Oscar Robertson with his 41st triple-double of the season against the Bucks. And April 9th, Russell Westbrook breaks Oscar Robertson's single-season triple-double record by picking up his 42nd of the season in a narrow 106-105.
Sean Fennessy remains unimpressed.
He is against Russ.
Forever.
As we all know.
Forever against Russ. How about the postseason?
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. The Cavaliers and the Warriors are your Eastern and Western
Who would have
Conference
guessed?
champions. Truly a stunner for all of us. The second-seeded Cavs rolled through the playoffs, truly exposing the utterly mediocre nature of the Eastern Conference. Watery. That sounds like kind of fun. Like an adventure,
conference?
like a water park.
I like
slipping and sliding, full of surprises. No?
I just remembered a Chris Ryan story about a water park. Hopefully he'll tell that later.
LeBron and co. swept the Pacers, swept the Raptors, and then dispatched the Celtics in 5 games. The top-seeded Warriors, meanwhile, they swept the Blazers, the Jazz, and the Spurs. And nothing at all happened to Kawhi Leonard or his ankles. And the best player on the Spurs was active for the entire series. And Pop never got pissed and never brought up manslaughter in the context of an NBA playoff series. And everything was normal. Right?
I believe that's true.
Is that all? Is that how that went? And then, of course, for the 3rd consecutive season, the Warriors and the Cavs met in the finals. The Warriors got their redemption for infamously blowing a 3-1 series lead the prior postseason. They dominated the Cavs, took the series 4-1, and they won their 2nd title in 3 seasons. And that right there, that gets us to last season's big idea. So let's cut right to the core of it. Let's stick it with the pointy end. The defining theme of the 2016-17 NBA campaign was dominance.
Dominance. Is too much dominance bad for the NBA, guys, or any other sport in general? There have always been NBA super teams, of course. The Bill Russell Celtics. Boston and LA won 8 of 10 finals in the 80s. MJ's Bulls won 6 titles in the 90s. But is the Warriors' particular brand of dominance different? The thing about the Warriors was they were already a historically incredible team, blowing 3-1 leads accepted, before they added Kevin Durant. They won 73 regular season games. And then traded Harrison Barnes essentially for OKC free agent Kevin Durant on July 4th. Kevin Durant! Like the second best player in the NBA. It was, in a sense, 2 moves in one. The Warriors could now claim 3 of the best 10 players in the league alive, and 4 of the top 15, depending on how you rate Klay Thompson. And the Thunder, their most potent Western Conference rival, the team that had them down 3-1 in the finals, were gutted. The KD Warriors, this is how good the KD Warriors are. KD Warriors posted a 115.6 offensive rating, tied with the 86-87 Lakers for the best mark in history that season. They lost 39 regular season games over the past 3 seasons, 2 of those seasons without Kevin Durant. So they lost less than 40 games in 3 seasons. 18 teams lost 40 or more games just last season. Golden State, of course, well-managed franchise, light years ahead of everybody else. They have one of the best coaches in the league, not named Greg Popovich, and they got extremely lucky. It took a confluence of once-in-a-generation factors and a lot of luck for this deal to be possible. What made it possible? They signed future 2-time MVP Steph Curry to a ridiculously cheap $58 million over 4-year contract extension because the guy's ankles were made of wet noodles, it seemed. They drafted Draymond Green, then a pudgy energizer out of Michigan State with the 35th overall pick. I love thinking about if the Knicks would have drafted Draymond Green.
I thought you were going to say it's sort of like how we got Craig Gaines, also out of Michigan State.
Wow.
Underrated talent.
Underrated talent needs to write more columns about, like...
Doesn't really know how to use Snapchat properly.
Roots for 2 baseball teams. Wow, we're just putting his business out on Front Street today. Craig Gaines. Draymond Green, the 35th pick. He's now the most devastating defender in the league. Re-signed for less than the max, which is troubling to me, by the way. OKC blowing that 3-1 lead against the Warriors in the conference finals, followed by the Warriors themselves blowing a 3-1 lead to the Cavaliers. If any of those things don't happen, be less pressure on Durant to defect to the Warriors, and then the Warriors to look for another player. And the historic rise in the salary cap as a result of the NBA's historic television deal made that possible. And then there's factors like, the game being less physical in the past. When my Knicks say we're trying to compete with the Bulls.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. They could just wrestle Michael Jordan to the ground. Can't do that today. And then there's the structure of the NBA versus other sports. How does the MLB or the NFL or college football deal with dominance?
It's an interesting question. There are certainly no shortage of corollaries and parallels, not only across history, but even now, like even in the present day. I think about the Warriors in much the same way that I think about Alabama.
Wow, Roll
and
Tide.
War Eagle, motherfucker.
Nice.
No, Roll Tide for life. I love Alabama. We'll get to that later.
Right.
I love a dynasty. Spoiler alert. Love a dynasty. But in a lot of ways, what is happening with the Warriors is most reminiscent of what is happening in college football, where the sports overlords sat down and decided after years and years of talk about the BCS and the flaws inherent to the system about what to do, and ultimately decided that basically to give more teams a chance at dethroning Alabama, they should finally go for a playoff, a limited playoff, but a playoff. And what has happened? Well, Alabama has kept dominating anyway and is certainly positioned to do so again this year. And it's also not just Alabama. Clemson, who I have never doubted.
Ever. Have you ever doubted Clemson?
Not once.
Ever in your life have you ever been like, you know what? I don't believe in Clemson.
Never.
Never once?
No, I'm on the record. There's a vast Ringer U archive where every week last season I picked Clemson, including to win the national championship. So I'm not sure what really
Who could forget?
You're hinting at. But Clemson is basically the Cleveland, the Cavaliers to Alabama's Golden State in this situation. There is this other team in recent years that feels, okay, obviously not quite as dominant, but dominant in such a fashion that you could sort of delude yourself into thinking it's not actually one team.
Right.
It's really two, and that's maybe not better, but it's slightly less bad. But, even with Clemson rediscovering its #Clemsoning roots this past weekend and losing to Syracuse. Cuse! Let's go Orange. Real champions wear orange. The Tigers are still not out of it because that's the nature of the system, right?
Sure.
A team with one kind of confounding head-scratching loss can still ultimately perform well enough in its conference to impress the selection committee and earn the bid. You only need to look at last year's Clemson team, which, again, I never once doubted.
Ever.
And, so that means there is at least a possibility that we could be heading for a three-peat.
Sure.
I think it is unlikely that Clemson, truly, jokes aside, I think it is unlikely that Clemson will be able to make it back into the field because the ACC is weaker this year. But the possibility is there. So with that possibility existing, it means that Clemson could at least theoretically still serve the role that the Cavs did last year, basically like a nominal parallel rival that really ultimately isn't. It's nothing more than like a one-year stumbling block.
That's it.
A foil, but not really. That's the thing. It's a foil's guise.
Shouts to Clemson.
Man, tough. Habit is hard to break.
Never doubted him.
I'm really sorry. I love Deshaun Watson. Alabama.
Yeah.
Can reload. Fresh batch of 5-star recruits every year. Can continue to innovate schematically. Doesn't necessarily matter. The no shots occur. I agree with you about where he is on the coaching pantheon. But ultimately, didn't matter what happened with McElwain or Kirby Smart or Kiffin or Sark. It's just about the system that's in place.
It's almost like getting Bell with the 38th pick.
Much like that. Man, shouts to McHugh.
Yeah.
What a time to be an Oregon basketball fan, And in theory, the collection of talent that Alabama has on its roster at any given point should scare away those recruits. Right. They shouldn't want to go there because playing time is threatened. But it doesn't matter because Alabama is still the best path not only to the NFL, but to a championship. Same thing for Golden State. Theoretically, the loaded roster that he saw there should have made him uninterested in joining up. Well, I want to be the guy. I want to show that I can be the guy. It's too tempting to opt into anything else when you know that that is not just a potential path to a title. It is the path.
Oh, they're going to win.
To the title, right?
The Warriors are going to win the title. You heard it here first.
Bold.
Yeah.
I admire your courage.
It's a hot take?
I really admire your courage. And then what about other pro leagues? What about the NFL? What about baseball? Well, NFL playoffs, it's one and done, right? So, you can
Much
look
tougher.
at the 2007 Patriots, probably the best example. They went 16-0 in the regular season, and then they didn't win the Super Bowl.
Some dude could catch a ball against his helmet, and the next thing you know,
Katie Baker's life is forever altered.
Forever changed.
Forever altered. And that is the embodiment, really, of how pro football structure allows for in essence, the nonsensical
Randomness.
result to occur. Baseball playoffs happening right now. Hope you're watching us instead. Fuck the Yankees, man.
Wow.
For real.
Fuck the Yankees.
Wow. Boy, do I hate the Yankees. Man, Sean Yu's just chirping in the corner about Aaron Judge hitting a home run.
But you and Sean Yu have issues that go much, much deeper than the Yankees.
He's dead to me.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
The baseball playoffs, it's not just that the baseball playoffs are long because every game takes, somewhere between 15 and 17 hours.
Right.
It's that there is basically no guarantee that what happened over a 162 game regular season will bear out in the postseason at all. The fact that the Yankees, who, according to my personal feelings aside, according to something slightly more unbiased, like Pythagorean record, were arguably a top 3 team in baseball this year. They were still in a one-and-done wild card game scenario, single elimination against the Minnesota Twins, who lost 103 games last year.
Shouts to Meg Schuster.
Shouts to Meg Schuster. Aaron Rodgers will be fine, Megan. Believe that. Believe that. But that is, while it's a thrilling 3 to 20 hours of television, depending on how long a given wildcard game takes, it's patently unfair, right? In a way that the NBA playoffs
I like this take.
Never are.
I love this take.
That's part of the calculation. That is part of why basketball fans who are not Golden State fans feel such existential dread about this particular super team. Because as you said, we've seen super teams before. Well, what is different about this one? It feels like what we're seeing in the NBA playoffs always is basically more valid than what we see in other postseasons. There's less room by definition for chaos or for genuine surprise. You know, typically more often than not always, but more often than not, the best team is going to win. And so if the best team, in this case the Warriors, is that much better than everybody else, why even play? Why even play the season? Why
That's what
play
the Clippers
playoffs?
said last season to themselves.
Do it like Roto style, fantasy baseball. You know, who has the most points at the end? All right, there's your crown.
this is an aside, but this
Are
kind
you
of
sure my 20 minutes on other sports, that wasn't the aside?
This debate kind of reminds me of the replay versus no replay debate, because it's like, do you want to get it right? Do you want it to be right, or is like a certain amount of indecision important to flow?
Right.
And like, it's very similar to that. The thing about that Warriors super team is that they further unbalance the league by just creating more super teams. If you're an NBA superstar or star, say age 27 and up, you got to join up with other like fellows, or you're going to watch that window shut, guys. Warriors are going to be here. They're going to be here for a while. So we have Chris Paul joining James Harden in Houston. We have Paul George and Melo, Hoodie Melo, joining Russell Westbrook in OKC. I'm sure they're going to see the ball one of these days. They're going to get the ball. Melo, just keep standing out there on the perimeter. You're going to get that ball. Kyrie and Gordon Hayward with Al Horford and Brad Stevens in Boston, making the league even more top-heavy. And that's because the Warriors are young, man. Their core players are all under 30. People are already asking Clay about taking a discount in 2 years.
Incredible that conversation is already underway. And he's kind of like, well, like how many millions?
Right. I mean, it's crazy. The guy already has to wear Chinese shoes. Come on.
He's getting 80 mil for those. I think he's fine.
Listen, when guys are getting like 200 mil, 80 kind of seems not that great.
It's all relative.
The regular, I'll take 8 mil. I'll take $8,000. I'll take $800.
Wow. Let me tell you, we'll have a talk on the side after this about negotiating against yourself. I want to ask you a little follow-up question about that, about the sort of compulsion that these guys on an individual level feel to join their peers and forge these super teams because they're competing not only against the clock but against the idea of the Warriors. How much is like the bookend of tanking on the other end of the league all wrapped in on that? Because on the one hand you have this one super team and then a couple other super teams that have built up around it, right? And then you have a handful of franchises, at least for one more year, that have completely punted, or openly punting, or not even trying to compete. And it basically, it like forces that middle that is normally part of the competitive balance in the league to just evaporate.
Totally. It's like a donut. I mean, this is, and not to
I love donuts. Are there any here?
Delicious.
I'm hungry.
Why aren't there
This
donuts?
is dinner time.
There better be donuts here tomorrow. Not to like crap on the Clippers again, but you know, like they could not beat the Warriors. And you could see that they knew that they could not beat the Warriors.
Right.
And that just not only causes them to be disheartened, but it just causes like a dramatic drop in the thrill of watching that game. And you're right. We have all these teams at the bottom that are like, well, we're lucky enough to avoid this. You know, when we're ready to make the next step in 4 or 5 years, the Warriors will be done. Let's tank. Let's get Ben Simmons. Let's get Fultz. Let's get Embiid. Let's get all these players now. And we have time and cover, essentially, to develop them, since nobody's expecting the Bucks of the world to really make the Eastern Conference Finals. We've got all this cover. We can just be bad or not that good and just worry about developing our players. And that causes like this weird top heaviness in the league that we're seeing now. And, you know, I mean, a huge narrative storyline around the regular season and the postseason last season were just that the playoffs were going to be boring. The whole thing is boring. We know that the Warriors are going to win. They have Kevin Durant now. And then the Warriors lost one game in the postseason, one finals game. The outcome was a foregone conclusion. The Cavs basically punted on the regular season. They were like, yeah, we don't even care if we get the top seed because we know when we kick it into high gear, the Raptors, the Celtics, it doesn't matter. So my question to you, Mel.
Yeah.
Is this bad? Is it bad?
Well, it doesn't sound great, you know, to be honest. But I think it's a little bit of a philosophical question. Like, what do you want?
I love philosophy. I love philosophical questions.
Me too.
As you well know.
I do know. What do you want out of sports? Like, why are you as a person watching this in the first place?
I'm trying to fill that gaping hole in my spirit.
With what? With greatness, right?
Sure.
You want to see greatness. And now the thing is, the complicating wrinkle is that even that, which seems like a specific, fully formed idea, is relative. It can be a matter of semantics. Like, greatness can mean great competition between many evenly balanced teams, or it can mean utter domination. Now, as I said earlier, I love a dynasty.
You do love a dynasty.
I love a dynasty.
Yeah.
Like, I am not an Alabama fan, but it is truly thrilling to me that I am alive and consuming college football at a time when that program is doing something historic. The fact that Nick Saban, when he is finished not being a coward,
Wow!
Bill Simmons, he will have more championships than anybody in college football history. That is awesome, getting to watch that unfold. I am not, much to Claire McNear's chagrin, a San Francisco Giants fan.
Right.
But when Madison Bumgarner demanded that baseball, I felt like I had transcended to another plane of existence. Like, there are certain moments that happen in sports that only a team building toward true greatness can give you. I think the complicating factor with the Warriors is that it's not actually often close enough for you to feel that way, right? Like, the fact that they're doing something incredible is incredible, but it also feels so inevitable that you lose a lot of the emotional and mental and spiritual investment that some of these other teams working toward those consecutive or X number of years championships give you.
I'm glad you mentioned history because something I've been thinking about, like when the Celtics played the Lakers in the finals, that first time back in 2008. And then again in 2009. The thing that was so cool about it was like this feeling of, wow, we're participating in history. Like we're getting to see this thing that's really part of the lore of the sport. Like clearly, if you were a fan of the Knicks, like in the late 50s and 60s, you'd be like, man, F the NBA. The Celtics are winning every championship. This sucks. But to look back on it now, you're like, man, that must have been incredible. It's like to watch that kind of dominance. Same thing with the 80s with the Lakers Celtics of the 80s. You know, they won 8. Those two teams won 8 of 10 finals. If you were the Denver Nuggets, you're like, man, this is terrible. So perhaps there's something to the newness of the Warriors, the fact that they're so new on the scene, and then like this further connection with Silicon Valley, which is like this. Like a new economy that's sprung up in the last 10 years, 15 years. That it's like, it really feels like an entire paradigm shift. Like if it was the Lakers and Celtics again, people would grumble. There'd be so much grumbling. But there'd be this feeling of, oh, this is what the NBA is about. This is what the character of the league is about.
That's really interesting because I think recency bias is always a factor in however we perceive anything in sports. Totally. Like we're either really quick to kind of hand wave something we're seeing in the present day as not up to par with, X, Y, or Z from the past, or to do the opposite and assume that just because it's happening now, it must be the best thing that's ever happened. Like I think that's where the idea of, again, the foe or the foil comes into play, because when you're talking about Lakers Celtics, like, there's more than one team you're talking about there. The rivalry that fueled their respective greatness was so fundamental to what you were viewing that, it's one of those things where, like, the best and worst feeling as a sports fan is when you have to accept that the team you hate is amazing. Like, that's a moment of despair. Like,
I've despaired so much in my life, I tell you.
It's part of what sucks about the Yankees being good again. It's like, I don't want to admit that Aaron Judge and the Yankees making the World Series is exactly what baseball needs, even though it's true, right? So that's where the LeBron question comes into play again. Or even Russ in Oklahoma City and what's happening there, and like is a personal beef enough to really fuel an important rivalry. Are LeBron and the Cavs a real foe for the Warriors? And then if they are, is that actually worse, because it means that the question of is dominance bad for the NBA as a whole and for fans as a whole means we're actually talking about both conferences, that there's just this element of predestination, this true why not just play this as a video game simulation and get the result at the end, why even bother? And then if they're not a real foe, it's like, well, then you don't have that juice.
There's no juice.
You don't have...
There is very little juice.
Very little juice.
We love the NBA. Juice. Little juice. Not that much juice, guys.
Where do you think... I mean, it's a little, soon to say, obviously, again, recency bias, but at least based on where we're heading, where do you think the Warriors really rank, both within, the NBA set of dynasties, recent and all time, and just sports dynasties as a whole. Are we watching something truly special here?
Yeah, I think so. Sure. I mean, if they win it again, for sure. But like, it would be undeniable then. But like, they're the greatest offensive team that people have seen. Many, many people have ever seen. Not only that, they're a suffocating defensive team. Really, like, revolutionary in a lot of ways in the way they're able to leverage these players of similar size in a way that seemed like folly 12 years ago. You know, like, it not that long ago, it was like, oh, 6'7" guy playing center, that's freaking crazy. We need to get a 7-footer. And now it's like, oh, we got to get these similar sized guys so that we can switch on the defense. And, you know, they have created something that is truly, truly, truly notable and great.
I'm glad
I'm
glad that you mentioned that, because
Yeah.
that is actually like, that's a huge part of what makes this so threatening to people.
Yeah.
First of all, it doesn't feel like a fluke. It doesn't feel like luck.
it's not a fluke at
And okay, let's like compare it to, not that this was a dynasty, but certainly a super team, the Heat.
Sure.
Right? When the banana boat guys all opted in. That team was bought. Like, literally bought with money. And so as a rational person, you could say, I think this sucks. I don't like
Right.
what this means for the game. But there's just a structure in place that
Right.
allows for this to happen. The Warriors were built. And in the process
There's a
of building that
depth there.
team, they have changed the game.
Yeah.
Changed the very fabric of the sport. The things that Steph does, the way that he shoots, changes the way that prospects are scouted and
Right.
the game is played. That is also, in addition to just being threatening to other fans who think maybe, okay, I don't have the confidence that my organization can do that. If you're not into those particular personalities
Right.
in a personality-driven league,
Who might not be into the personality of Steph Curry? Someone we
like,
know.
I mean, I have never heard Juliette Littman say anything negative about
Ever.
Steph Curry's superstar power.
Not on a daily basis, certainly.
Never. But is that a thing? Like, is the fact
know-
that Steph is not necessarily an energizing superstar a problem?
I mean, I think it is a problem in the sense that, yeah, the NBA is a more personality-driven league than any of the other leagues. Like, you know, when the Minneapolis Lakers went to New York back in the 50s to play the Knicks, the marquee at MSG said George Mikan versus Knicks. That's just how the game has always been played, because there's only 5 players to a side. You can see their faces. You know who they are. Michael Jordan changed the way athletes, certainly NBA athletes, are marketed. And Steph, while an absolutely revolutionary basketball player, a good human being, a loving father and husband, there is something like not that
He endorses
edgy.
Brita.
He loves water,
Just say it.
as
He
we all
endorses
do.
Brita.
The guy endorses water.
Yeah.
Like, how much
Yeah.
how much more unedgy can you get? Hey guys, water.
Well, you could have the chefs.
Do you
could have
like
those shoes?
Do you like clean water?
I
know I do.
And extremely lame official tennis shoes.
Yeah, I mean, so that is, that's a thing. I mean, like, listen, as J.R. Smith has gotten a lot of mileage out of just being a wild guy who was, for a long time, really not that dependable a basketball player.
Right.
So yeah, I think it does factor in, and we have to look at also the reason that it's so the Warriors are in a way so disheartening is like there's just structural changes. We talked about how in the past a great team could be bullied. Like the Pistons had the Jordan rules, which is basically like let's horse collar Jordan every time he goes to make a layup and throw him to the ground. And that was allowed then, basically. Like guys would just not get ejected for that. The Bill Russell Celtics were great. They played in an 8 or 9 team league. So it was just much harder to dethrone a team that had all the good players when there were 9 other teams. The Lakers and the Celtics played in a 23 team league. The 30 team format and the modern salary cap were in theory supposed to keep super teams like this from forming, but didn't happen. The massive TV deal really upended the strategy of so many teams, allowed the Warriors to acquire this historic collection of talent, and here we are. Mal,
Jay,
we're not going to let Golden State's historic dominance and the predictability of the league today get us down.
Okay.
We're going to
stay
press
positive.
on to the Sept. The Sept.
Love the Sept.
Remember the Sept?
Oh,
To
yeah.
bathe in the healing light of the Seven, talk about 7 of our favorite things from last season. I'll go first.
Okay.
You know who I love? You know who the Ringer loves? You know who Sixers fan Chris Ryan loves? John Gonzalez, you know who he loves? You know Andrew Greenwald? I call him Andrew. I feel like we're that close.
Sure.
Loves? Joel, the process. Embiid!
Oh, I thought you were going to say Chick-fil-A loving Markelle Fultz.
Well, listen,
No?
I love Markelle Fultz. I love Chick-fil-A.
Definitely
certainly.
hasn't changed anything about his shot or free throw
No, I
motion
think
this
that's good to go.
offseason,
I
and
mean, you know, he looks.
his legs seem totally fine, and everything there is normal.
Wow, can you do, I feel like I was listening to Bill Simmons just now. Joel Embiid's per 36 stats last season are like something that could cause priapism in a Sixers fan. 28.7 points, look that up, guys. 11.1 rebounds, 3 assists, 3.5 blocks, 36% three-point shooting, which is nuts. Basically, he's Elijah Wan with like a three-pointer. Only played in 31 games before being shut down for a meniscus tear. He will probably, I don't know. I hope he plays a full season, but like,
Come on.
It's tough. He even said himself at Media Day this season, like he's not going to play the full season this season, which is like, yeah. Not only that, not only is he like the evolutionary Elijah Wan, guy has his social media presence.
Iconic.
It's iconic.
Iconic.
It's incredible. First
He's
of
a
all,
legend.
he's tempting diabetes with the fact that he drinks like 15 grams of sugar straight into his kidneys a day with his Shirley Temple habit.
That reminds me truly
Yeah.
of the Reisterstown, Maryland bar and bat mitzvah
Wow.
circuit that I happily inhabited
it.
in, what was that, 7th and 8th grade, I
love
guess.
it.
Virgin Shirley Temples, obviously, but there's not a Jewish catering company in town that can't whip one of those up for you in a jiffy, give you as many of those cherries as you want. Delicious. I
Joel.
support him fully.
Joel, Reisterstown, Maryland, head down there. Not only that,
close.
but the guy loves to S-talk. We've been told we can't curse.
Wait, is that true? I've dropped the F-bomb like 9 times.
Oh, yeah? He loves to
no.
shit-talk in the mentions. Joel Embiid.
Guys, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. He loves to S-talk in the mentions. Chandler Parsons, a favorite target.
Oh, man.
Openly recruiting players.
Kate.
KD, Durant, my son, Kristaps, keep your dirty hands off him. And he inserts locations, did this season, such as,
It's my favorite part.
I know, I love that he had his location as extremely ass in his Instagram caption.
I love it.
Dancing on stage with Meek Mill when he was ostensibly healing from injury. Great. And, you know, it's just like the kind of player who really could not exist in the NFL. Certainly, they would shut this shit down.
Yeah.
MLB, he would be the transgressor of like numerous unwritten rules. He is a wonderful gift. I hear the control room going crazy. Hopefully not because we've dropped numerous curses.
Those are the Puig fans who want freedom to flip your bat whenever.
In my
Shirley Temples
in
as
my
you want.
best Keith Olbermann. Have you no shame, sir?
I love Embiid. Embiid
Yeah.
really feels like the kind of personality who totally transcends the sport.
love
Like, you don't actually have to know anything about the process or the Sixers or Kansas or whether the FBI has actually reached out to him yet
It's freaking great.
or will soon to know that he is an absolute delight.
I tried to take a picture of him at the GQ All-Star Game party. Low-level humble brag. And his bodyguard did one of these. Stiff arm right in the face. But that's like kind of my brand, is like getting
Stiff-armed.
stiff armed. Trying to take a cool picture and getting stiff armed.
I respect the hustle.
Number 2.
Number 2, pettiness.
I love pettiness.
It could have easily could have been the pointy end theme. Pettiness was pervasive throughout the entire season, and obviously a huge part of this. Huge part of this. Russ versus KD.
Ooh.
The legendary cupcake Instagram
Legendary.
that Russ posted when Durant
So good.
revealed that he was leaving for the Warriors. And then jumping ahead, fast forwarding out of the timeline that we are technically supposed to be living in right now, Russ signed his max extension on Durant's birthday.
I love that.
That's like the optimized version of Embiid's bodyguard giving you the stiff arm and telling you can't take the picture. That's incredible.
Wearing the photographer's vest because Kevin Durant has an interest in photography. That one was like so pointed, by the way.
Love this. And then also jumping ahead out of our time frame here, but it's too good not to mention.
This is what made you Russ a favorite of yours, I'm sure.
Forever.
Yes.
I ride with Russ forever now. He wore an absolutely incredible Adopt a Cat t-shirt after Durant mixed up his social media accounts, thought he was tweeting from the burner, sent the now infamous "can't win a championship with those cats" tweet from his actual account. Russ is owning him. He is dunking on him. That's amazing. And then, of course, LeBron and the Cavs versus the Warriors. If you're throwing a Halloween party,
sure, as I often do.
Likewise, I love to organize a social event.
I know you do.
And you are not filling the room with party decorations that reference the Warriors blowing a 3-1 lead.
Gotta do that.
If you don't have Clay and Steph's name on those tombstone cookies,
wow,
you're just not even occupying LeBron's orbit in any way.
I love that.
What about looking ahead? We're supposed to be looking back, but quickly, let's look ahead here. Quick predictions for the best beefs of the coming season.
Well, I'm going to switch what we have in the outline. I'm going to put Kyrie Irving at the top because he recently called Boston, where he now resides as an athlete, a, quote, real sports city, making him the enemy of LeBron James, the Cavaliers, and the entire state of Ohio. That's
tough.
I think that, that's like that is definitely petty and definitely not a great shot, not a great look for Kyrie, but I freaking love it.
I have absolutely no idea why Jaylen Brown would be giving quotes to the media about how acquiring Kyrie might potentially impact clubhouse culture. I have no idea why he would be concerned.
I love it. Then I would go Katie and Russ, surely again, the Adopt a Cats t-shirt, as we mentioned. And this is just one that I'm hoping for. Carmelo versus Phil. I hope this continues. I hope Phil, wherever you are, Montana somewhere, smoking a fat bowl to your head. I hope you keep tweeting, Phil. I hope you keep tweeting about people and keep getting owned.
For 99% of the world, never tweet is the rule. For Phil, it's always tweet.
Listen.
All right, we've been told we have a hard out in 8 minutes, so let's hustle.
Wow!
Lightning round time. Number 3.
Tanking. The 76ers process, landing Embiid, Ben Simmons, Fultz, Darius Saric, and Jahlil Okafor. I mean, you can't get them all right. Versus MLB-style tanking, which I find to be fascinating. How fast can you do this? I love cross-sports comparisons, especially in this case.
Last time I was supposed to briefly mention baseball, I talked for 17 minutes uninterrupted, so I'll try to do better here. Listen, the quick version is that 2 of the 4 teams who are still currently alive in the MLB playoffs tanked aggressively and masterfully, the Astros and the Cubs, and their success has fundamentally altered the model in baseball, period. It is now the only thing that a savvy front office is going to attempt to do.
Smart.
The White Sox right now, Zach Cram will say he disagrees, but the White Sox right now are overtly trying to replicate what the Astros and Cubs have done, trading away all their best players. Adam Eaton, Chris Sale.
Sounds like a process to me.
Jose Quintana. I mean, do we want to call Todd Frazier a great player? I don't know, but Frazier, Robertson, all of them, and they demanded elite prospects in return.
That is classic process.
Expertly done. The Astros, just quick rundown of some of their first-round picks from recent years since they aggressively tanked and got those high draft picks. Alex Bregman. Mm-hmm. Have you guys heard of Carlos Correa and George Springer? I mean, there are teams in baseball who haven't drafted guys that good ever. And the Astros have done it over a 5-year span. Now, they haven't been as successful with the pitchers. Mark Appel is like a high-profile, #1 overall bust. Chris Ryan, he's on the Phillies now.
Chris Ryan loves baseball.
Famed baseball fan. And Brady Aiken was one of the more bizarrely mishandled first-round #1 overall picks in recent memory. But it hasn't really mattered that they've whiffed on so many of the pitchers because they've gotten enough hitters and enough talent overall and just amassed a sheer volume of prospects that they were able to go trade for Justin Verlander.
Sam Hinkie is going to listen to this back with like a freaking thing of lotion in his palm and like a box of Kleenex next to him.
Oh my God, that was vivid. The UFC
Sam Hinkie does not go dry, guys.
They're going to cut our feed a few minutes
It's
early
okay.
here.
It's true binge mode.
Binge mode is what it is. Theo Epstein. He took
Yeah.
over for the Cubs in their first few years. Under him, they won 61, 66, and 73 games, and that was on purpose.
Right.
Flat out on purpose. And some of the players they have to show for that, Chris Bryant, last year's NL MVP, Kyle Schwarber. I mean, this is an effective model. And then it's even creeping into the NFL, which I don't think people ever thought we'd see.
Right.
When the Browns traded for Brock Osweiler, Kevin Clark wrote a great piece on The Ringer about the process coming to the NFL. Do you think the Browns wanted Brock Osweiler? No. Do you know how I know that? Brock Osweiler is not currently on the Cleveland Browns. They wanted the pick that came with him. The Jets aggressively trying to tank, giving away Sheldon Richardson and other great players.
And in true Knicks fashion, doing it badly.
Right. Is Brandon Marshall on the team? No. Is Eric Decker on the team? No. But guess what? The Jets have more wins than the Giants. They are completely botching this, and Josh Rosen is going to end up as Eli's heir apparent. Chosen Rosen. Wow. Love him. All right. Number 4.
The nature of the MVP race. The award hinges on the definition of valuable. The debate, as in other sports, especially baseball, often break down along the traditional versus modern lines. Eye test versus box score versus eye test and box score versus modern analytics. We had Russ Westbrook, the traditional values candidate. We will talk more about him in a bit, assuming we don't get cut off. James Harden, the efficiency candidate. He scored 29 points on a bit over 18 shots a game, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, versus Russ's 30 points on 24 shots. Of course, James was nowhere to be found during the Rockets' 114-75 gutting at the hands of the Spurs. Took only 11 shots. This really hurt his MVP case, but also hurt MVP chance at the club after his Game 6 debacle. But
that's where the real validation comes.
That's where that's so true. That's a lot of, especially the intelligentsia, which I'm among the intelligentsia. We're arguing midway through the MVP race, like look at the deeper numbers, look at the way Harden affects the entire team. He's got to be the MVP. And then we had LeBron, greatest player alive, another great season, really one of the best statistical seasons of his career. 14 years into his career, he's played in 7 consecutive finals, which is crazy. Been to the finals 8 times in 14 years. He's a guy who makes 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists seem really boring. And then Kawhi, the best two-way player of the game, who Shea Serrano said, if Kawhi would just occasionally curse and maybe get photographed throwing a beer bottle against a wall at a club, the guy might win an MVP award. But much like in other sports, because of the fiery nature of Russell Westbrook and really the incredible feat that he did, he's our MVP. Number 5. Conference imbalance.
Conference imbalance. I mean, this is an extension of the Warriors discussion and the dominance of one team and really the dominance of one half of the league. The West, plus 42 versus the East.
That's pretty significant. The East.
My goodness.
Good conference, guys.
The best East team versus the West, 17-13. 6 different West teams had a better record than the best East team versus the West. It just wasn't close. And based on the offseason defections and moves, it's going to be maybe even worse.
It's going to be worse.
This year.
Melo, Paul George, all moving west.
And LeBron. Poised to one day soon.
You heard it here. Well,
you heard it here for the 75th time on The Ringer. LeBron and the Lakers, maybe the Rockets? This seems to be gaining steam. Why would LeBron want to go out west? We don't have time for that. But if he has such a clear path in the East, why wouldn't he want to stay there and just worry about the Warriors at the end?
Nicer. Let's be real.
I mean, he's rich. He can live wherever he wants.
I don't know. The weather is pretty great out here. That's whatever.
Number 6. You famously love Los Angeles and its weather.
I can't. Guys, Los Angeles is okay. Giannis, number 6. The switch to point guard in the 2015-16 season, revealed crazy facets of the Greek Freaks game, and he just took it to another level this past season. 23 points, 8.8 rebounds, 5.4 assists. He is the most devastating end-to-end player in the NBA, as far as I'm concerned. Just the way he can pull down a rebound, take what seems like 2.5 steps, and then just be dunking on a team. If he ever develops a consistent three-point shot, that's it. He'll win MVP awards. And guys like Kevin Durant, LeBron, many other great players in the league are that guy's next.
Really crushing in hindsight. It was crushing in the moment, but the Jabari knee injury last year, I mean, that Bucks team was so fun. And Brogdon obviously went on to win Rookie of the Year. Giannis was incredible. It sucks that we didn't get to see that full team in action throughout the playoffs. And then number 7, this is not one that we would want to rush. This is an extremely serious thing, but quickly, we just want to give some well-earned praise to the social activism that was present throughout the NBA season and continues to be. We are in a
getting more intense, if anything,
dark and terrifying moment in our history as a nation and in the world.
We can be nuked at any time.
And it was amazing to see, LeBron and Wade and Melo and Chris Paul stand up at the ESPYs and deliver that powerful statement. Steve Kerr, Popovich,
outspoken.
the things that they have said and continue to say. I mean, today, the day that we're recording this, Popovich called our president a soulless coward.
Peter Holt, the
legend
owner of the Spurs, contributed much money to the Trump campaign. Interesting to imagine how that dynamic must play out on a day-to-day basis.
Pop is such a king. LeBron stumping for Hillary before the election and obviously has remained outspoken and really leading the charge to show how athletes in a position of power can speak effectively on these matters. We've heard it since in this offseason, John Wall, others really joining the chorus, and Steph with one of the iconic quotes of the season regarding his product that he endorses, Under Armour.
Kevin Plank, the CEO of Under Armour, was at that time on Trump's manufacturing council, called Trump an asset to the country. And then Steph Curry, in true Boy Scout fashion, said, I agree with that description if you remove the ET.
Great
which
stuff.
leaves ass, by the way, you guys.
Steph could do Binge Mode live because he would not curse. He would be more effective at hosting.
He'd be great at this. Mal?
Yes.
Well, it might be easy to predict the champion of the NBA season. Predicting who wins a champion's purse is more difficult. Each episode, we're going to honor the person who advanced his or her cause in some tangible way. And the winner of our champion's purse is someone who accomplished something many, including myself, to be fair, considered impossible. It is Sean Fantasy's favorite NBA player, Russell Westbrook.
Adopt a cat.
Adopt a cat. For or against Russ? Are you for?
For.
I am too. Listen, are you for selfishness or are you for spectacle? He averaged a triple-double for a season, 31, 10, and 10. Last time this happened, Oscar Robertson, back in 1961-62. The Beatles weren't even out at that time, guys. General discussion topic. Let's talk about selfishness first, Sharon. Can you be selfishly unselfish? We probably don't have time to talk about this. Whatever. The guy averaged 10 assists a game, but posted a really a crazy unheard of 41% usage rate. The fact that you can average almost basically 11 assists and also use almost half of your team's possessions is crazy to me. And then during the playoffs, that ballooned to 47%. Basically no one else is ever getting the ball. Steven Adams' job was to box out and never grab a rebound. Listen.
And there was never once an uncomfortable press conference about that.
Never once. Listen. Russell
once.
Westbrook. It was amazing.
Sharp dresser, too. Sharp dresser. What did we say earlier about the idea of a dynasty and how you think about it? What do you want to see out of sports? Greatness. And
I want to see greatness.
Whether the selfishness or the spectacle was with the lens you chose to view Russ through, you can't deny that every day he did something spectacular, and at some basic level, that is why we watch sports.
It's like at the 4th of July when you're watching a fireworks display and the person next to you keeps going, here comes the big finish. Here comes, and it's actually, no, it's not yet the big finish. Every single Russell Westbrook
That's what they're saying about Binge Mode
was
right
the
now.
big finish.
Oh, it's not yet the big finish. We told them to finish, but it's not yet the big finish.
Here it is. Here's the big finish. Okay, friends. This has been a delight.
It has. Good to be here with you.
We truly cherish this break in the binge hiatus clouds.
Yeah.
So until next time, whenever that may be, 2019 maybe?
Perish
Hopefully
the thought. Perish the
Remember,
thought.
as Dumbledore once said, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to binge. Dun, dun, dun! Peace!